Hey, what's up guys, it's TechZoomer, talking to you here. And today, I want to talk about the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Yes, is it worth it to buy the iPhone 13 Pro Max in 2022? And why, in my opinion, the iPhone 13 Pro Max is still the king of the iPhone lineup, even after the release of the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So, the iPhone 13 Pro Max came in 2021, and right now, it's not the most recent iPhone. No, the iPhone 14 Pro Max has already been launched and actually reviewed by myself. So, why do I still think that the iPhone 13 Pro Max is the king of the iPhone lineup? Well, I do still think that because, one, it still has the better battery life. Two, in my opinion, it still has the better notch design. Three, I think this iPhone, still, in terms of performance, it's top notch. And fourth, I think there's some conditions where the camera of this phone just beats the camera of the iPhone 14 Pro Max. For example, while taking night mode shots, I do think that this phone, by using only the 12 megapixel shots, having bigger pixels, when you are using the 48 megapixel mode, or what I mean by that is like when you are using raw photo mode on a very dim light condition, like it's not total night mode, but the lighting conditions between night mode and day, where it's more difficult for cameras to adapt because they are not either on very good lighting, either on very bad lighting when they have to turn on night mode, then I do think that the iPhone 13 Pro Max is better than the iPhone 14 Pro Max. And I mean, this still is last year's phone, and if you go try to buy one right now, it will be around $1,000, almost the same price as the iPhone 14 Plus. And that's why I think that this phone right now, it's the better value, the better buy for someone that are looking for the best iPhone. Even if you're looking for the iPhone 14 Pro Max, I would try to recommend you going for the iPhone 14 Pro Max refurbished if you can, because I do still think that this phone is really worth it, even if you are looking for the best iPhone ever, and money is not a problem. It's always good to save some bucks, and I think that the iPhone 13 Pro Max won't disappoint you. So, I think that in this video, you will like my perspective of the iPhone 13 Pro Max. You will understand why I did not upgrade to the iPhone 14 Pro Max, even though I had that phone for about 2 weeks. I've used it as my main phone for 2 weeks, and I ended up returning it. So, I think that the iPhone 13 Pro Max is the perfect candidate for those that are looking for the best phone out there. And if you are considering that, do not forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and go in the comments down below telling me if you agree with me or not. So, no further ado, let's get started. I've been using the iPhone 13 Pro Max for the past, 1 year and 2 weeks. Yes, this phone has been great. You can see this video as my iPhone 13 Pro Max 1 year review, because I think that the iPhone 13 Pro Max has been great. Really great. Has been more than 365 days since I got this phone, and I've been more than in love with it. Let's start with the design, where I think that the iPhone 13 Pro Max excelled in every single way. I do still think that the iPhone 13 Pro Max color, this Sierra Blue, is one of the best that I could have got. Yes, I was a bit mad when Apple released the Alpine Green, but after a few months, let's say, this color is continually to look amazing when I look at it, and I cannot say the same thing for Pacific Blue from the iPhone 12 Pro. I really got tired of that color, while this Sierra Blue on the iPhone 13 Pro Max still looks incredible, like it was the first day. So this design, the color at least, it's remarkable for myself. I think it's one of my favorites. I had the iPhone 14 Pro Max with the space black color, and I really enjoy that color, but I think I do still prefer this Sierra Blue iPhone 13 Pro Max because it's just beautiful. I mean, I cannot say, it's a subjective matter. You probably don't like this color, but myself, I do really enjoy it. So it's one of my favorite iPhone colors, and it's just looking better and better every single day that passes. Then, of course, you have the squared off design, which is the same as the iPhone 12 Pro and 14 Pro Max. This squared off design, like I told you in several videos, and on the iPhone 14 Pro Max review, on the iPhone 12 Pro Max 2022 review, I do still think that this design, it's less comfortable than the older iPhone 11 Pro design, but it's way more premium to hold. It's way better to have, and it looks amazing. It's cool, looks cool, and feels cool. And one of the things that I do enjoy of the iPhone 13 Pro Max is still the premium feel that it gives you. Like, it's a 1 year phone, but it still feels new, brand new, very modern, futuristic even. And it feels completely premium, like you are holding $1,000 piece of technology. Yes, this phone costs around you right now $900 to $1,000, depending on the state of the battery. But I do still think that this phone, it's still really, really premium on the hand. And if you buy one, you won't feel like you have last year's design because the iPhone 14 Pro Max still has the same design as the iPhone 12 Pro Max and 13 Pro Max. So in terms of design, this is completely up to date. And the camera bump is a little bit smaller than the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which I do really appreciate. These camera bumps are getting huge, man. Like, try to invent a way of making them smaller. I know it's a design cue, but they are getting really big, especially on the Pro models. The Pro Max models, they are kind of hiding very well because you still have a lot of space back there, but on the Pro models, it's getting kind of tight. So be careful with that, Apple. But still, this design is very good. On the front though, things change. This design has changed every single year. On the 12 Pro Max, you have the first gen notch. On the 13 Pro Max, you have the second gen notch. And on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, you have the dynamic island. And the display is something that I want to talk about because I do still think that the iPhone 13 Pro Max display is still very, very relevant in 2022 and still very, very good. The only two differences from the iPhone 14 Pro Max display to the iPhone 13 Pro Max display are dynamic island, which I think is a very big gimmick in my opinion, and then you have the 2000 nits brightness capability, which I think is very big, but with the cooling of the iPhone, it's just ridiculous because after 20 minutes, 30 minutes of top brightness, that brightness goes down to the 1000 nits that this phone can produce sustainably. So, I mean, it's a game of, yes, for about half an hour, you get 2000 each, which outside, it's actually very bright and very useful, in my opinion. But after a few hours, I mean, the phone just gets heated up, the battery life is just destroyed, and you still have 1000 nits brightness because your display was too hot to handle it. So, at the end of the day, it's a very useful feature, yes, but I think in the future, it will be more useful because Apple will learn how to control and how to cool down the phone while using 2000 nits. Right now, it's a cool feature, but still on the gimmick realm for most people. For people that like shooting video outside, shooting photos on bright sunlight, it's a very, very cool and very useful feature to have. But the display of the iPhone 14 Pro Max, in my opinion, has the best feature ever introduced on an iPhone since the cameras and the 4K video. It's ProMotion. iPhone 13 Pro Max was the first phone to get ProMotion display on the iPhone lineup together with the iPhone 13 Pro, and in my opinion it was a game changer. ProMotion is just the best thing Apple ever introduced on their displays, and I gotta say that when I'm using phones that don't have ProMotion, they just feel broke, just feel old, feel clunky, and they feel very slow. While the iPhone 13 Pro Max doesn't feel that way. The difference between this display and the iPhone 14 Pro Max is just dynamic island, smaller bezels, and the 2000 nit brightness. That phone still has the ProMotion technology, like this one, and so they feel almost identical. And that's why I wasn't, let's say, enticed to upgrade, just like I was last year when I had the iPhone 12 Pro and I decided to buy the iPhone 13 Pro Max because one, I wanted the bigger size, and two, they had ProMotion. Those were my big reasons to upgrade, and then of course camera and video quality came third. But I think that the display on the iPhone 13 Pro Max is still relevant, still perfectly good. One of the best displays in the business right now. The bezels are small, the notch is way less intrusive than the dynamic island. In my opinion, it's a very, very good introduction because now I can just forget about the notch. I just turn on the black wallpaper and that's fine. I just get no notch. I just forget about it. While with dynamic island, you cannot forget about it. Things go up there, you have to touch there. So it's more of an active approach to the notch, which I enjoy. I know it's different, and I think that is cool that Apple is trying new things with the notch. They built a very cool task manager there. But sometimes when I'm watching videos, sometimes when I'm looking at my wallpaper, sometimes when I'm using the UI, I wish that the notch went away. And with the iPhone 14 Pro Max, I don't have that opportunity, while with the iPhone 13 Pro Max, I do. And that's why I think that this notch is cool. I do like the dynamic island though, it was a good implementation, but at the end of the day, it's not more than a gimmick, which did not entice me to upgrade and still doesn't. And for you to have an idea, I had the iPhone 14 Pro Max for 2 weeks. By the first day, I already had felt in, and so like the phone just felt like my old iPhone 13 Pro Max. I almost forgot that I had the new phone, and so that was one of the biggest reasons for me not to upgrade, because that phone felt like this one. And that's a very big compliment that I can give the iPhone 13 Pro Max. It's still feeling like the new phone, like today, while being cheaper and 1 year older. So it's a very big accomplishment for the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Then I think that the biggest thing and the biggest difference between these two phones, and on the positive side for the iPhone 13 Pro Max, is battery life. Battery life on the iPhone 13 Pro Max is one of the best things that I can talk about this phone. The battery life on this phone has been insane. Some days I finish with 65% of battery on a 90% degradation of the battery. That's just stupid. That's just insanely good battery life. When it was new at 100%, I could get 2 days easy. Now I can only get 1 day and a half. The battery is getting more degraded. I know it only has 90%. I mean, it's not the best though. Right now it's about 50% and we are 10 on the evening. So 2 hours for me to go to bed and the phone is at 50%. I use the phone regularly today. It was one big day. I rode my bike. I counted calories. I counted the workout here. I went to YouTube, watched videos, watched big podcasts. The phone, still cool. I'm recording this video on the iPhone 12 Pro Max though, so no recorded video today, but still, it would have spent more than like 5%. So I'm not worried about battery life on this phone. And it's way better than the iPhone 14 Pro Max because of the fact that it doesn't have always on display. One feature that it was present on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, it's in my opinion a big gimmick also, and it spent like 10% of the battery more than the iPhone 13 Pro Max, so I turned it off. And that's why I did not upgrade for the iPhone 14 Pro Max also, because one of the biggest and highlight features, I just turned it off. I did not use it. So the iPhone 13 Pro Max is still very relevant in terms of battery life, one of the best battery lives in the game, better than the iPhone 14 Pro Max for sure. And I think it only loses, or at least ties up with the iPhone 14 Plus, which in my opinion is a worse phone in every single category other than battery life. So I don't see the point of you buying the iPhone 14 Plus. Just buy the iPhone 13 Pro Max instead. If you want a battery life, amazing, 13 Pro Max. If you want an amazing camera, 13 Pro Max. If you want a better display than the 14 Plus, 13 Pro Max because it has ProMotion. If you want better design, better build, more premium, iPhone 13 Pro Max. In terms of price, it's around the same. I don't think I see any negative side of going for the iPhone 13 Pro Max instead of the iPhone 14 Plus or even the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Maybe the dynamic island, maybe the 48 megapixel sensor, maybe the always on display and the 2000 nit brightness, but that's it. With a price tag of extra $200 on US, and in Europe it's much worse, like $300, $400, $500 even, if you can find this phone on a good deal, then I do think that this iPhone still is the king. Because the biggest thing on iPhones, the camera, has not been the biggest of improvements this year. So let's talk about the camera differences, shall we? The camera on the iPhone 13 Pro Max has been insane. It's been perfect, no more than that. This phone has recorded every single of my videos for the last year, and I can tell you that I'm very happy with the quality. You guys can testify how good the camera was. I made like 150 videos with this camera. Amazing, I'm very happy with it. 4K 60, 4K 30, cinematic mode, ProRes, I've done all of that. All of the videos of my channel have been recorded on different types of formats here, like, I don't know, I have ProRes videos, I have cinematic mode videos, I have 4K 60 videos. This is a 4K 30 video recorded on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, which is still very good, as you can see. So the iPhone 13 Pro Max, it's still a very insane performer on the video category. It still has 1080p 30 frames per second cinematic mode, which is cool for filming some stuff, filming some b-roll, even shooting myself in some types of scenarios and videos. But the iPhone 14 Pro Max features that with 4K and 24 frames per second. If that's useful for you, that might be something that you want to look at the iPhone 14 Pro Max. But the experience, and going back to the iPhone 13 Pro Max, has been good. The camera side, the 12 megapixel main sensor is still one of the best cameras on the game. I mean, it only loses to the 48 megapixel sensor on the iPhone 14 Pro Max because that's a better sensor in general. But I mean, it's like gimmicks. Gimmicks at the end of the day. I think that the iPhone 14 Pro Max can be described by gimmicks. While this phone, it was a very huge upgrade for the time, and right now still feels a very cool phone. The ultra-wide camera has macro mode, which is one of the biggest and funnest features on this phone. I just love macro mode. I've had so much fun taking macro shots during this last year that I can show them all. You can see here, I will pass some examples. These photos were all taken on the iPhone 13 Pro Max, and as you can see, they are all, in my opinion, spectacular and beautiful. Then of course you have night mode shots, which are also cool, panoramas, portrait modes, which are also very good. The main camera also takes amazing photos. Telephoto lens here, it's 3 times instead of 2.5 times as the 12 Pro Max. Sometimes I wished it was 2 times, sometimes I wished it was 5 times. So I cannot complain. It's a 3-time telephoto lens. It's good with good lighting, takes very cool portrait modes, but in terms of bad lighting and night mode, it's not that great. So I'm spectating and watching if Apple releases a telephoto lens bigger, like 10x or 20x or even a periscope lens. That's when I will upgrade to my next iPhone, because I do still think that this camera is still very relevant. I film all my videos in it. I did not see any jump in terms of the video quality and difference in video quality between the iPhone 13 Pro Max and the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I've made videos on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, I've made videos on the iPhone 13 Pro Max on my channel, and you will probably not know if I do not tell you. So I think that it's not worth it to buy the iPhone 14 Pro Max just because of the cameras only. If you couple together the cameras with dynamic island, with the display, and of course with the 2000 nit brightness and the new space black color, and all of that just makes you look at it and say, good, that's a very cool phone. I really want that phone. And you have the iPhone 11 Pro, 12 Pro, maybe go for it. But from the iPhone 13 Pro Max, I don't see why. And if you want to know right now, is it worth it to buy the iPhone 12 Pro Max in 2022? I made a video for that. Go check it out under the description. But what about the iPhone 13 Pro Max? Is it worth it to buy? For sure, the iPhone 13 Pro Max, in my opinion, is the phone to buy. It's the Pro Max model to buy in 2022. Avoid the iPhone 14 Pro Max, in my opinion. I think you should buy one. Only if you want to buy a new iPhone, you are afraid to buy a refurbished iPhone, a used iPhone, then the iPhone 14 Pro Max is you. But if you are living in Europe, Asia, or any country that had some huge price increases on their iPhones this year, then the iPhone 13 Pro Max is surely the phone for you this year. This phone has been insane, great, battery life is perfect, cameras are still perfect, display perfect, design still up to date, everything is still very up to date on this phone. You will not notice the difference between this one and the 14 Pro Max on the longer term. So I do still think that the iPhone 13 Pro Max is the phone to get. It's still the king of the iPhone in my opinion. The iPhone 14 Pro Max is an iteration, sure. It's a change in some aspects, sure. It's an improvement in some aspects, sure. But the iPhone 13 Pro Max is still the king in so many aspects. Battery life, in my opinion, the notch, in my opinion, some shots and some scenarios while using the 12 megapixel camera, that the upgrade that the iPhone 14 Pro Max got, coupled together with the decrease that this phone got in terms of value, then I do still think that this phone is more worth it and better in general from the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Of course, the iPhone 14 Pro Max is the best phone and the best iPhone ever. Sure, I cannot debate with that. It's an improvement over this phone. Even if it's only 1, 2, 3% of an improvement, it's still an improvement nonetheless. But this phone, with the decrease in value, plus the small, very small iterative upgrade of the iPhone 14 Pro Max, I don't think it was enough to dethrone this iPhone as my favorite iPhone ever, and of course, the best iPhone to buy in 2022, if you are looking for the best iPhone available. So, I think that this is it for the iPhone 13 Pro Max review 1 year later. This has been 1 year, one hell of a year for the iPhone 13 Pro Max. I loved it. This experience has been great, and I cannot wait to make this video next year telling you how it was, the 2-year experience with the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Probably next year I will change the battery on this phone. Even if I buy the iPhone 15 Pro Max or 15 Ultra, whatever you want to call it, I will change the battery here because it's at 90% right now, 89, 90, and by the next year it will be around 80. And if I end up not keeping this phone, I will probably give it to my father, my mom, and I want to replace the battery just because I really do like this phone and I want to keep it for the future, like making B-roll, recording B-roll. It's still very useful and I love it very much. So this has been my review on the iPhone 13 Pro Max, one of the best iPhones ever had. I think it was the best year ever with an iPhone. I'm in love with this phone. It will be in my pocket for 1 more year, that's for sure, and I cannot wait to tell you the experience of the 2nd year of ownership. For you people that like to see longer term reviews. But let me know in the comments down below what you think about the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Do you still own one, or did you upgrade for the iPhone 14 Pro Max? Don't forget to let me know all of that in the comments. While you're there, do not forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. This has been Tech Summer talking to you here. Bye.